Hey folks, thanks for tuning into my channel. Welcome to findmygemstone.com. This is a video blog series that I'm making on astrology, Vedic astrology and planetary gemology. My name is Sridhar Sairam. I'm a Vedic astrologer and planetary gem advisor certified from Thailand. I'm also a software engineer by profession. I got initiated into Vedic astrology by my Guruji Sri Arnav from Bangalore. For more info about myself, please click the below link. Now let's go to the main topic of the video, Jupiter transit in Cancer that has happened from 19th June 2014. This transit is most auspicious and much awaited transit simply because Jupiter is getting exalted in Cancer. It's coming back to the Cancer after 12 years. It spends 1 year in one sign and it takes 12 years to circle around the astrological belt. Next to Saturn takes 30 years to complete the cycle. That's why the spiritual leaders and yogis give very important importance to this 12-year Jupiter cycle. That apart, these two planets play a very important role in influencing our day-to-day life simply because they sit in one sign or a house more period, and then they have the chance to influence the matters concerning that house. Now, if you look at the almanacs, the sidereal almanacs, it's exactly 0 degree Cancer right now. It'll take some more months, 1 or 2 months to go into the peak exaltation. So this is going to be very good for all of us. It's a period of rejuvenation and expansion, and you should be in tune in receiving the energy of Jupiter. Now look at the nature of Jupiter. The energy is completely different from other planets. If you see, Jupiter is benefic. It's a benevolent planet. It's a fountainhead of divine grace. It is considered as preacher. It's a teacher. It's initiate people into learning. In Vedic periods, Jupiter is also known as Brahaspati. Without invoking Brahaspati, no rituals are complete. Even in Rome and Greek culture, Jupiter is considered a king of gods, born out of thunder and sky. So they also gave for them the principal deity was Jupiter at that time. So how to approach the energy of Jupiter? If you look at the energy of Venus, it is a regressive energy, whereas Jupiter is progressive. Jupiter is more of enjoyment. Venus is more of enjoyment, seeking desire. Jupiter is more of learning something new, spiritual awareness, respecting elders, respecting spiritual process. Even if you want to get into marriage or you want to have a child in Vedic astrology, Jupiter is given very important role. It's a one-alone planet in Vedic astrology, and the placement of Jupiter in this transit is in 4th house Cancer. The natural bhava is 4th house. That is a Cancer sign. It is coming back to the home, the motherly affection, and the 4th house represents mother, home, vehicles, assets, education, etc., etc. So basically, when you consider Jupiter getting exalted in this house, it is going to expand the qualities of this house on all of us because it's a natural bhava. It is considered as a natural bhava for all of us. And when you look at the Shastras also, the placement of Jupiter, especially if it is in 2nd, 5, 7, 9 and 11, it's very special placement. But they have also mentioned if Jupiter is going to be in Cancer, these placement doesn't matter. It is going to be always good for everyone. And also another important aspect in this transit is it is also a period of rejuvenation naturally for the planet because it's the summer solstice is happening right now. And if you look at the transit analysis for each and every sign of my transit analysis, it's also going to be interesting because I'm going to give the remedies also in terms of gemstones especially. And if you want to watch my transit, you consider 3 things in your hand. One is you should have your horoscope done, you should have your ascendant, or you should know your moon sign, and also you should know your planetary period. That is Vimshatari Dasha, which is calculated based on the nakshatra at which moon is situated. Because the Vimshatari Dasha is a period, it's a planetary period which triggers the events in life like marriage, child, even initiation into something. This particular transit in Jupiter and Cancer, if it matches your planetary period, you will have more auspicious and learning especially. And if you are in a malefic transit, assume if you are in a malefic period, assume you are undergoing a malefic Saturn Mahadasha, and you are right now in Jupiter transit, and your house, especially Jupiter placement in your horoscope, is very good, then you can take help of this Jupiter transit in Cancer and be in tune with your Jupiter energy, and then negate the negative aspect of Saturn. Especially for Aries, if you take Aries, is going to have a Shani Ashtama Shani, because Saturn is transiting the 8th house from Moon, natal Moon, and Jupiter is coming to Cancer in 4th house, and it is having a direct 5th aspect on Saturn from November, and Jupiter is in exaltation, expansive mode, so it has more power. So these people can take help of yellow sapphire, you can wear yellow sapphire and receive the energy of Jupiter, and then counter the negative effects of Saturn. This is the beauty of gemology also in this. So as I said, these 3 things is very important if you want to go to the individual Rashi predictions. And in general, if you ask me the general prediction for this transit, Jupiter in Cancer, exaltation, expansive, rejuvenation, and it's going to shower its blessings. It's going to nurture the planet. It's going to nurture the individuals and living beings. So overall, it is one of the most auspicious transit. This is a message I'm going to give for this transit. Now let us go to the individual moon sign predictions or Rashi predictions in the upcoming video. Now let's go to the individual Rashi predictions or the moon sign predictions. The first sign, Aries, or Mesha in Sanskrit. It is a fiery sign. It's a masculine sign. It is ruled by the planet Mars. The sun is getting exalted here, and it is represented by the symbol Ram or sheep. The sidereal constellation or nakshatra in this sign are Ashwini, Bharani, and first quarter of Kritika. This info I'm specially sharing with you guys because even if you know your nakshatra, it is good because you will know what sign you are, and then you can follow the prediction that I'm going to give. Jupiter is in 4th house for this native. So to explain exactly what does it mean, the chart is going to pop up now. So in the chart, if you see the moon is a natal moon, in your horoscope, the moon is in Aries, meaning when you were born, the moon was in Aries, and the constellation could be anywhere between Ashwini, Bharani, or Kritika first quarter. So your Rashi is primarily Aries or Mesha. This is a natal moon. And I have shown Jupiter in the 4th house, which is a transit Jupiter, meaning Jupiter currently in the Cancer sign. So Jupiter could be in some other sign in your horoscope, but this is a transit Jupiter. So I have mentioned Rashi and the moon placement and the Jupiter placement only because that is the only topic of the video, prediction for the moon sign. So Jupiter being in the 4th house, so now 4th house is what? 4th house is actually represents mother, native land, home, vehicle, education, initiation into education, and happiness at home front, etc. Generally, when a benefic planet like Jupiter is in the 4th house, it ensures happiness at home. It doesn't have any negative effect on the 4th house. So from 4th house, it has aspect on 8th, 10th, and 12th house. Apart from these 3 houses, 8th and 12th are malefic houses, as we know, and 8th house represents inheritance, death, and 12th house represents loss of money, expenditure, travel to foreign lands, etc. So these two aspects are not that good, but even then, Jupiter being a benefic planet, and it has become more benefic simply because it is in Cancer, it will only give a positive expansion of these houses. Probably you might get an inheritance because of the aspect on 8th house. You might get, you might travel to foreign lands, or you might have good expenditure, or you will control your expenses. But even then, it all depends on your ascendant, how the Jupiter is actually positioned in your horoscope. Now look at the pros and cons for this sign. The pros meaning the happiness at the home front, that's the first point. Next is education will be good. People who are school goers or college goers will get maximum success in the education of this sign. And then there will be a gain of assets. You will contemplating buying vehicle or a farmhouse, etc. Cons will be health will be little bit affected. The career will be little bit problematic. The Jupiter will try to create hurdle in your career, and at the end of the transit, of course, you will have some expansion because Jupiter will try to expand your career also, and there will be some loss of money. Expenditure will be high, and the remedies for this sign is very interesting that I have to bring it. The placement of Saturn for this sign as well in this coming transit. The Saturn is going to come to 8th house. Currently it is in the 7th house, which is in Libra. Probably it will come to, not probably, it will come to 8th house from November. So Jupiter currently in 4th house. From 4th house it has a direct 5th aspect on the 8th house, Scorpio. So the 8th house transit of Saturn for this native is not going to be pleasant. You will be having depression. There will be sudden transformation, job losses, health will be affected greatly. So for this native, what happens is the remedy would be to strengthen the Jupiter. So how do you strengthen the Jupiter? The simple way to strengthen your Jupiter nowadays is to wear a natural yellow sapphire or Heliodor. So Uparatna. If you wear any of these stones, according to astrogemology, it will strengthen the planet Jupiter. You will start receiving the energy from Jupiter because the gemstones yellow sapphire or Heliodor possess the qualities to attract the energy from Jupiter. This is one of the interesting remedy for this individual. And apart from this, for Shani transit into 8th house, I will cover a separate video for this sign. So tune into the coming weeks or months. Thank you. Have a nice day. Now let's go for the predictions for the next sign, that is Taurus or Rishabha in Sanskrit. It is represented by the symbol bull, and the nature of this sign is very pleasant. They are lover of music, arts, and jewelries, and this is a feminine and earthy and fixed sign. The nakshatras in this signs are 3 quarters of Kritika, 4 quarters of Rohini, and 2 quarters of Mrigashirsha. If you look at the chart, the natal moon, which is in the 1st house in Taurus, so this natal moon is your Rashi moon, which is in your horoscope at the time of the birth. And you can see the transit Jupiter, which is in the 3rd house in Cancer. The transit Jupiter is the present position today, as of today, in the celestial orbit. So Jupiter in 3rd house represents valor, courage, it represents writings, it represents siblings. So when Jupiter is in the 3rd house for Taurus, it's going to give expansion on all these matters. It's going to increase your courage, valor to do something and to do something more, and it will increase your writing skills. It will initiate you to do something in writing or in teaching, and it will also, because of its aspects on 7, 9 and 11th houses, it will increase your relationship capabilities, it will increase your social media skills. Through that you can earn money also, because for Taurus the 2nd house is actually for the 2nd house, it's actually 2nd house of 2nd house is 3rd house, meaning Jupiter was in Gemini and now it is in Cancer. When Jupiter was in Gemini, it was in 2nd house, and that itself is a very auspicious time. Even when Jupiter goes to 3rd house being 2nd house from the 2nd house, It is going to give wealth through writing and social media, etc. This is one of the good period for Jupiter, Taurus, because they don't have any malefic other planetary configuration in their timeline. And if a native is having a very good Vimshatri Dasha, furthermore it is enhanced. Now let's see the pros and cons of the sign. Pros is you will have good health, you will have good relationships, you will have good social media skills, your income will be good, your courage will be increased, your relationship with your siblings will be good. And cons, there are no major negative aspect of this Jupiter transit for Taurus. So I would say there are no remedies for this sign for this transit. Thank you. Now let's go to the predictions for the third sign of the zodiac. It's Gemini or Mithuna in Sanskrit. It is represented by twin born sons, and it's a masculine sign, and the planet Mercury rules this sign. This sign has the 2 quarters of Mrigashirsha, the 4 quarters of Ardra, and 1 quarter of Punarvasu. This is a very good sign for simply because this year is going to be really good for these individuals. Jupiter is going to be in 2nd house, and from Gemini it goes to 2nd house. So if you look at the chart, your natal moon, it's going to be in Gemini. If you see natal moon, it is the moon in your horoscope at the time of your birth, and Jupiter in the 2nd house, meaning it's a transit Jupiter, currently Jupiter in the celestial sky. So if you look at the chart, Jupiter is in the 2nd house. 2nd house is a house represents wealth, family wealth. It represents speech and vision. It represents business through precious stones, jewelries, and basically Jupiter is going to bless you with all these aspects of your life. So you'll have a very good year in this in the coming year. The only issue is Jupiter's aspects, which are falling on 6th, 8th and 10th house. So it is not that good. Basically, according to my experience and statistical data, Jupiter in this 2nd house, the aspects increases the problems at your work front, especially with your subordinates, colleagues or employees, with boss, etc. And you'll become little lethargy, laziness will hold you, and there'll be some hindrance to your career, and you have to get out of that. You will feel always to get out of that problem. So the only solution for this kind of problems is you be active, you program yourself mentally to be active, to be punctual at work, to maintain a cordial relationship with your employees and your bosses. Then you can benefit from the other aspect, good aspect of the Jupiter being in the 2nd house. Jupiter in 2nd house is very much revered good in the Shastras also, especially Jupiter in 2nd, 5, 9 and 7, 11 houses are very good as per the Narada Samhita. So for this sign, it's a very good year, it's the best year, and provided you take care of the aspects of Jupiter in the 6, 8 and 10 houses, 10th house. No remedies are required. The pros are you will have good wealth from the family, you will have very good vision and speech, you will have improved speech, you will have you will get into some business in jewelry, gemstones, precious stones, etc. And then the cons would be you will be a little lethargy, and the punctuality will be hit at the work front. You have to be you have to give more conscious effort to improve that part. You have to be active. So take care of all these things. There are no malefic influences of any other planets for this native. So I won't have any remedies through gemstones for this Gemini sign. So it's a good year. Enjoy. Thank you. The 4th sign of the zodiac, the predictions for the 4th sign, it is Cancer or Karkata in Sanskrit. It is a feminine, watery and a movable sign. The planet ruling this sign is Moon. So this planet is a little bit emotional and it's very sympathetic sign. And Jupiter is getting exalted in this sign, as you remember, apt to the topic. So Jupiter is going to be sitting on top of the first house, Moon. So it is like a sitting elephant. And Jupiter being in the first house represents your body, constitution, immunity, vitality, vigor, and overall as good aspects of your life. You will be having a good start from now on. It's complete end of your Jupiter cycle because it comes to your natal moon. If you look at the chart, you can see the natal moon. It's in the Cancer, and then Jupiter is in the Cancer itself. So Jupiter is on top of your natal moon. This is a very good placement of Jupiter. It will enhance all the aspects of your first house. You will be very energetic. You will have good vitality, immunity. Your body constitution will be good, and the aspects of Jupiter are also very nice. If you see its aspect on 5th, 9th, and 7th houses, will improve your relationships. It will improve your income. It will improve your listening capabilities, and then you can also look for some job change. And the pros, if you see, as I said, you'll have a very good energetic body constitution. You will be very active. You will end up doing some good sports. Since it is a complete of a Jupiter cycle, you will have some start of a new part of your life. And then the cons, if you take, there are not many for this sign because it's a very good placement, excellent placement, and there are no remedies also for this sign. Thank you. Now let's go for the individual predictions for the 5th sign of the zodiac, that is Leo or Simha in Sanskrit. This is a masculine, fixed and fiery sign. The planet Sun rules this sign. Nakshatras under this signs are Magha, Purva Palguni, and first quarter of Uttra Palguni. This info I'm giving specifically because for the folks who doesn't know their Rashi, if you know at least your Nakshatra, you can take note of this Nakshatra and find your Moon Rashi and follow the predictions. For this folks, if you look at the chart, you can see the natal moon, which is the moon at the time of your birth. It's in Leo. And Jupiter is in the 12th house. Transit Jupiter, the present Jupiter in the celestial orbit, and it is coming from 11th house to 12th house, which is not a very good transit. Jupiter in 12th, especially 12th house, represents expenses, extravaganza, wrath from authorities, punishment from tax authorities, fraud cases, and distance to foreign lands, etc. So Jupiter aspecting the 12th house by sitting in the 12th house is not a very good placement. Though since it is getting exalted in Cancer, it may not show its problematic nature in this transit. So in case if you have any problems, you have to follow the remedy which I told you in the intro video. You have to be ethical in this transit if you have to receive the benefic energy from Jupiter. So you have to follow the straight path. Please, the tax authorities, don't take any illegal means, don't be greedy, and follow expenses and expenditure carefully. If you follow this, then you may not get into trouble. Even if you look at the aspects of the Jupiter, it is 468, which is not good. So totally, if you see, this sign will not have a great time because of this transit. But if you go for a proper remedy, because this sign will also go into a Saturn 4th house transit from the moon, natal moon, which is called Kantakashani, which will create problem with your home friend. It will create problem with your education, and it will have problem for your mother, etc. So you have to take help of gemology, astrogemology especially. You have to strengthen your Jupiter by wearing yellow sapphire or heliodor in your right hand index finger in gold. If you strengthen the Jupiter, then by November, when Saturn comes to the 4th house, Jupiter will be in the 12th house, and from 12th house it will have an aspect on 4th house. And by pacifying Jupiter by wearing yellow sapphire, you can negate or you can counter the negative impact of Saturn on your life. This Also, remedy of gemstone is also for Jupiter, and also it is a remedy for your Kantakashani period. As such, for this Rashi, for this moon sign, this year is not a very good year, but an average year. Thank you. Now let's go for the individual predictions for the sixth sign of the zodiac, that is Virgo or Kanya Rashi in Sanskrit. This is a common sign, neither feminine or masculine nature. It's ruled by planet Mercury. The nakshatras under this sign are 3 quarters of Uttara Palguni, 4 quarters of Hasta, and 2 quarters of Chitra. This info I'm sharing because if you know at least your nakshatra, you could easily find out your moon Rashi, and then you can follow the prediction. For this native this year, it's going to be the excellent year, excellent transit, because Jupiter is going to be in the 11th house. If you look at the chart, your natal moon is in the Virgo and Jupiter is coming from 10th house to 11th house. You can see it is in Cancer. And 11th house represents society, friends, income from social media, income from wealth, happiness, dawn of fortune, and you'll be most happy this year because these folks are also coming out of their 7.5 years of Saturn period, which is called Sadasati in Hindi, and Tamil it is called Edanadasani. So these people will be very happy, and excellent period for this native. No remedies are required as such. You don't have to wear any gemstones, or you don't have to do anything. Just enjoy your life. The whole pressure on your life till now, it's coming out of your shoulders, and you'll be feeling like a bird with long feathers. Enjoy. Excellent. Now let us go for the individual prediction for the sign, 7th sign of the zodiac, that is Libra or Tula in Sanskrit. This is a movable airy sign. It's represented by the symbol scales. The nakshatras under this sign are 2 quarters of Chitra, 4 quarters of Swati, and 3 quarters of Vishaka. The planet Venus rules this sign. These people are very enigmatic in character. So these folks, for this folks, Jupiter is actually transiting into 10th house, which is not a very good sign. But as I told you, we need to be really careful with this Jupiter transit. We cannot underestimate any transit of Jupiter which is in exaltation. Now look at the chart. The moon is in Libra, the natal moon. The natal moon is a horoscope. In your horoscope, the moon placement at the time of your birth. And Jupiter is a transit Jupiter, which is currently in Cancer, which is in the 10th house. Normally Jupiter in 10th house, what it does is it will create some hurdles in your career. It will create some problems with your authority and power and fame, and then after that it will slowly expand your career. That is the nature of Jupiter. First it will create the hurdle, and then it will start expanding your horizon. So even though at the start of the year you might have some problems with your career, you might have an expansion in the later part of the transit. But one problem with Libra is they're also undergoing the 7.5 years Saturn period. So you have to be cautious in all aspects of these malefic transits. So you have to follow certain principle guidelines to attract the Jupiter energy, and at the same time you should not be a spendthrift. You should be careful with your colleagues, you should be careful with your employees, you should be very ethical. Basically you should be lying low for some time until you get out of this Saturn transit, and also you get out of this 10th house Jupiter. Probably after this year, from 2015 end, you might have a light at the end of the tunnel. So for this Libra or Tula Rashi, this transit is not that good, neither bad, neither good. It is average. Thank you. Now let us go to the individual predictions of the sign, 8th sign of the zodiac, the Scorpio, Vrichika in Sanskrit. The planet Mars rules this sign. This sign is one of the mysterious signs because it is 8th sign on the zodiac. And the nakshatras under these signs are the last quarter of Vishaka, 4 quarters of Anuradha, and 3 quarters of Jeshta. I'm giving this information because even if you know your nakshatra, you can easily find out the moon Rashi you are, and then you can follow the prediction. Now look at the transit analysis for this sign. If you look at the chart, you have moon, natal moon in Scorpio, which is the moon placement in your horoscope when you are at the time of the birth, and the transit Jupiter is in ninth house. The transit Jupiter meaning the position of Jupiter in the celestial orbit right now. So ninth house Jupiter is one of the most auspicious placement. Ninth house represents fate and fortune. It represents good learning. It represents religious and philosophical activities. It represents profit from long distance travel. It is one of the auspicious houses. It's a house of Dharma. So when Jupiter, the Lord of Dharma, is in the house of Dharma, it's going to be really good, So from 9, it is aspecting 1, 3, and 5th houses. All aspects are really auspicious. And one of the most unfortunate for these people is these folks are also undergoing the Sadasati or 7.5 year Saturn cycle. And Janma Shani is going to start. That is, the transit of Saturn over your moon, natal moon, is going to start from November. So keep in mind the remedies are very important. During this phase, you should wear an yellow sapphire. So by wearing yellow sapphire, you can give strength to the 9th house Jupiter, and then you can enhance the qualities of Jupiter in your life, and then negate the malefic qualities of Saturn over your natal moon. So natal moon, Saturn over natal moon is going to be really depressing, and you'll have a lot of pressure in your mind. So for this sign, if you wear an yellow sapphire, provided consult a proper astrologer before going for this suggestion. An expert astrologer, if he suggests after analyzing your horoscope to wear an yellow sapphire and try to get the help of planet Jupiter to negate the malefic Saturn. This native is going to have awesome transit for Jupiter in Cancer this year. Thank you. Now let us go to the individual predictions for the sign, 9th sign of the zodiac, that is Sagittarius or Dhanur in Sanskrit. This is a sign which is very noble in nature, and it is represented by the symbol man sitting with a bow and arrow pointing toward the sky. And the lord of the sign is the planet Jupiter himself. And the nakshatras fall into these signs are Mula, Purvashada, and first quarter of Uttarashada. And this info I'm giving you because if you don't know your horoscope or your Rashi, if you know at least your nakshatra, and then you can follow the predictions that I'm going to give for this Rashi. Now let us see the placement of Jupiter for this Rashi in this transit. So if you see the chart, your natal moon is Sagittarius. That is, the natal moon means the placement of moon in your horoscope at the time of your birth. So the Jupiter transit is happening in Cancer, the transit of Jupiter, and which means the current placement of Jupiter in Cancer in celestial orbit. It's an 8th house from your moon sign, natal moon sign. So if it is an 8th house, Jupiter in 8th house, generally people say it's not good. But according to my analysis, Jupiter in 8th house will bestow happiness through spiritual life. People will, these individuals will have an enormous amount of gain from legacy and inheritance. They will have plenty of happiness at home, family life, and there will be small hiccup in health, probably, and the lifestyle and habits might get suffered. So you have to take care of that. Apart from that, this placement of Jupiter is not going to do any harm for these folks. And if you look at the remedies for this individual, it's going to be a little tricky because you can either wear an yellow sapphire to strengthen the Jupiter, because these folks will also undergo a 7.5 years of Saturn period in the upcoming months. From November, their 7.5 year Saturn period is starting. So you can either go for yellow sapphire and strengthen the Jupiter and counter the negative influence of Saturn that is going to happen in your life, or you can also go for a blue sapphire if your ascendant is complementing the planet Saturn. But on any case, you have to approach an expert astrologer to find out which gemstone you need to wear. Apart from that, if you look at the pros for the sign of this transit, gain of wealth from inheritance, legacies, and then there'll be a affluent lifestyle, and there'll be a good family life. Cons, if you see, there'll be some problem in the health, and you have to be cautious with your financial matters. On average, if you see this transit for this sign is an average period. Thank you. Now let's go to the individual analysis on the 10th sign of the zodiac, that is Capricorn or Makara in Sanskrit. This is a 10th sign of the zodiac, and its planet ruling this sign is Saturn, and the nakshatras in this sign are 3/4 of Uttarashada, Shravana, and first half of Dhanishta. And for this native, the analysis is going to be very crisp and brief, because Jupiter is going to be in the 7th house. If you look at the chart, natal moon is in the Capricorn, and the transit Jupiter, which is currently in Cancer in the celestial orbit, it's in 7th house according to Sidereal Almanac. And if Jupiter is going to be in 7th house represents partnership, relationships, contracts, marriage, love affairs. So Jupiter is going to bless you with good relationship this year, and you might get into some good relationship, and who knows, you may get married this transit. And apart from this, there are no major malefic planets or influences, so there are no remedies for this sign for the transit. So it's going to be very crisp. Have a good year. Enjoy. The pros will be you will have a marriage, you will have good relationship, you might have good relationship with foreigners, foreign countries, and you might sign a contract for business, and the cons are nil. So enjoy. Thank you. Now let us go into the individual analysis of the moon sign, that is 11th sign of the zodiac, that is Aquarius, Kumbha in Sanskrit. This sign is ruled by the planet Saturn, and the nakshatras under this signs are 2nd of Dhanishta, Satabhisheka, and 3/4 of Purvabhadra. And why I'm telling this info for you guys is, if you don't know your horoscope or moon sign, if you know your nakshatra, you can easily follow the predictions based on the moon sign. Now look at the transit analysis for this sign this year. Jupiter is going into the 6th house. It is in Cancer in full exaltation. If you look at the chart, your natal moon is in Aquarius. Natal moon is nothing but, in your horoscope, the placement of moon at the time of their birth. So natal moon is in Aquarius and Jupiter is in Cancer. Transit Jupiter, which is the position of Jupiter currently in the celestial orbit. It is in 6th house. 6th house represents sickness, debt, animosity, enemies, and it's going to 6th house in Jupiter is not a very comfortable position. Even though Jupiter in Cancer is exalted, it will give you some problem related to disease. You will end up having overworked. You will have animosity among your employees and subordinates. There'll be jealousy and grudges because of your wealth accumulations. So basically, these people will have to be a little bit careful this year. And the remedies that I'm going to say for this is, I'm not going to prescribe any gemstones, because you have to analyze your horoscope in depth to give gemstones for this position of Jupiter. So on average, this year is going to be a very normal year for Aquarius. So try to be careful on the guidelines that I told you. To attract Jupiter energy in a positive way, you have to be ethical, you have to be spiritual, you have to be disciplined, you have to spend more time with your family and kids, and don't try to be overworked and seek a public image. So try to be more grounded and look for some relaxing time within your family. So thank you. Now let us go into the individual predictions for the moon sign, the last moon sign of the zodiac, that is Pisces or Meena in Sanskrit. This is a very important sign of the zodiac because it is a 12th sign, the last sign of the zodiac. The sages and seers give very high importance to this sign because the lord of the sign is Jupiter himself. The nakshatras under this moon signs are the last quarter of Purvabhadra, Uttarabhadra 4 quarters, and Revati 4 quarters. So For this sign, the transit is going to be in the 5th house. If you look at the natal chart, the natal moon is going to be in Aquarius. That is your natal moon, which is the moon at the time of your birth in Aquarius, and transit Jupiter is actually the placement of Jupiter currently in Cancer in the celestial orbit according to the sidereal almanac. So Jupiter is going to be in 5th house. 5th house represents what? It represents divine learning, mantras, spiritual practices, beauty, arts, involvement in all of this, involvement in procreation, so many good aspects of your life. These folks, after a long time, almost 2.5 years of Ashtama Shani is going to get over. After a long time, they are going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Personally, I have seen many of my friends and my natives suffering from this Ashtama Shani, that is 8th house transit of Saturn for the past 3 years. And Jupiter in 5th house is going to be a boon for these people. These people can wear yellow sapphire if they want to gain the energy of Jupiter for this special transit, or else without wearing any gemstone, simply doing some spiritual practice and get the blessing of Jupiter is also a very good idea for this individual. For this sign, this transit is going to be an excellent transit. After a long time, they're going to have very good time and have a good life. Pisces is going to have a very good time this transit. Thank you. Hey folks, hope you liked my video Jupiter transit in Cancer, that is from 19th June 2014. This is a video blog series that I'm trying to make on Vedic astrology, planetary gemology and astrology as such. If you have any suggestions and recommendations, please don't hesitate to drop by my website and post your comments through my contact form. And findmygemstone.com is a web portal I created with a single intention to provide most comprehensive Vedic gemstone report. Most comprehensive, I mean, it is not computer generated, automated generated. I personally analyze your horoscope considering various factors and principles prescribed in Vedic astrology as per Brihat Parashara Avara Shastra, and give you a qualified Vedic gemstone report. And for now, I am signing off. Hope you watch my videos and take cue on whatever remedies I offered and whatever predictions I offered. Thank you. Have a nice year ahead.